And let's bring in Casey Joyner. One thought every game to discuss here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Now, I don't know how you rank them, Casey, but all four of them gave us the final play. The kicker won 3 of the games on the final play on the road, and then you had the epic game last night. What was your favorite one of the weekend?
Bills Chiefs had to be. I mean, the weekend crescendo. The great start with the Cincinnati game, and then they had the Green Bay game. Well, that was was just they had the excitement at the end. And the Tampa game was like up and down, and it was only good because the Rams decided they didn't want to play for a while. But that Buffalo Kansas City game, that was two teams going at it for 4.5 quarters. So that was just an awesome game.
Okay, what's the play for Buffalo late there? They kick it out of the end zone. Do you kick it short? Do you squib kick? Do you do it the same thing over again? How do you play that?
You squib it. I mean, you have to. You've got to. They've got good special teams coverage. Not great, but they spent as one of the Athletics beat writer Joe Wascaga has said, they've invested a lot in their kickoff return coverage this year. It used to be a problem for them. So you've invested in it. Why not do it? I think one of the reasons they didn't want to kick is because they had the big return earlier in the contest, and kick return or punt return. And I think they said, let's not go ahead and go that deep with it because we possibly could get a big return. But having said that, you got to trust your coverage unit at that point. You can't, and you got to at least squib the thing, kick it out of alignment or something. You can't just sit back. But then again, they got that at 25. What's the odds they're going to go 44 yards in 2 plays?
Yeah, see, I think you have to kick it short, and here's why.
Okay.
If I squib it, not enough time comes off the clock because typically I catch it and go right down, and I'm giving them the ball at the 45 or wherever I squib it to. Even if I kick it short of the end zone, he's got to catch it and then bring it out, and then that's causing time to come off the clock. And if I cover the kick well, he's probably only getting to the 20, 25-yard line, but 3, 4, 5 seconds come off the clock.
Yeah, you got to worry if you kick it right straight down the middle. Again, the Chiefs had a big return earlier, and if you kick it toward the sideline, do you accidentally kick it out of bounds to the 40? I think the Bills said, "Hey, we've got a really good defense. It's Patrick Mahomes, but if we kick it back there, again, I think they thought, what are the odds that they're going to be able to drive to say the 35-yard line? Even, I mean, they'd have to go 25, 15, had to go 40 yards, and to get that, and just, what are the odds they're going to do that even with timeouts? They figured there was no chance, but you got to cover Hill and Kelsey. I think the kickoff was a mistake, but Hill and Kelsey, and you don't have any special coverage on those two guys on the last 2 plays of regulation. That makes sense.
Well, obviously, once they get the 2 plays, I think they felt like, hey, it's almost like they were trying to give him yards and let the clock run. It's just that those 2 plays were so precisely done. The Hill thing, he got shot out of a cannon for his, and then they get the timeout. Bills call timeout, and then Kelsey play was just phenomenal.
Yeah, they said it was Peter King wrote about it. Kelsey made an adjustment on the play where he was supposed to, I guess, go to the outside, and he saw their coverage. And he said, he told Mahomes in the huddle, he said, if we see this coverage again, we see what we think we're going to see, I'm not going to go where the route says I should go. I'm going to go bend this thing down the middle of the field. And evidently Mahomes at the snap was yelling to him, do it, let him know, make that adjustment that we're getting what we see. I still just don't understand. I understand you want to sit back and play kind of that spot drop, prevent coverage, but take somebody out of it. At least say, look, we're not, be Travis or Byron Pringle, Mecole Hardman, somebody else, beat us with those guys. At least try and take either Hill or Kelsey out of the contest for at least one of those plays. Remember what Kelsey did that against the Chargers in that earlier in the season when he got that catch, that big catch and run. I mean, you just can't sit back and play prevent coverage against these guys. They've shown it, and it was a big gaffe. It was another of a couple of gaffes for the Bills late in that game.
Yeah, there was a lot of breakdowns. Like I feel like there was great quarterback play, Casey, but there was a lot of breakdowns in the defense that accentuated the quarterback play.
Yeah, and I think the Bills, I don't want to say they started celebrating, but they just figured, hey, we've got 13 seconds left and there's no way they can do this. And I just, when you have those kind of ebbs and flows, because, hey, Tyreek Hill has that touchdown. It's like, hey, the Chiefs are going to win. My son and I were watching it, and after Hill got it, he's like, this game isn't over. It's like there's no way this game's over.
Andy Reid had the line of all time.
Yeah.
When things are grim, be the Grim Reaper. I mean, unbelievable.
Big Red's awesome that way. And that's the thing. The Chiefs talk about after the game, like, we still thought we had a chance, which that maybe end up being the difference. I think the Bills were thinking the Chiefs don't have a chance, and the Chiefs were like, yeah, we do. I mean, the Chiefs, to a man, were saying it. We still thought we've got a shot to do this, but like, you've got 13 seconds and you're on 25 and you need a field goal and your kicker's already missed 2 kicks. How do you think you got a chance? They didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, too, because in the last 2 minutes of that game, the Bills, they get the corner for the Chiefs falls down, and Gabe Davis is in the back of the end zone, wide open. That's how they take the lead. Chiefs go right back down. They score. Then Allen comes back. They score, get the 2-point conversion. He has the 4th down and 4. I mean, these guys are making plays all over the place, and then 13 seconds left. I mean, it's amazing that they were able to do it. And then, of course, they go to the overtime, and everybody's up in arms about it. But I don't know. Are you anti-NFL overtime? Do you have a better fix, or is it just, hey, it is what it is?
I like the idea that they switched to say, given, you got to remember when they started overtimes back with the 50s, the 58 NFL championship game was, of course, the first time they ever used it, but they started back then. It was, all right, if you kick a field goal, but a field goal was a 50-50 prop at best, and you had to get close. I mean, kickers were bad back then. Now, the way kickers are, of course, you don't want it to be decided on a field goal. If Kansas City drove down, got down 35 yards, and they kicked a field goal, and it was the old rules back previous 2010, and they wanted to go, okay, this was terrible. I mean, come on, you shouldn't be able to win this game with a field goal. But when you can go down and score a touchdown, it's like, okay, why are we saying the Bills deserved another chance? If the Chiefs got it, and then the Bills got another chance to the Chiefs, and they went down and scored and got 2 points, or they scored a touchdown, and the Chiefs get it and scored again. Are you then saying the Bills deserve 2 opportunities? I mean, come on, this is not. We don't need to make this into the college game. We don't need to make this in the NHL shootout hockey in the regular season. I mean, you had a chance to play defense, and you didn't do it. In fact, a lot of people, when you read comments on Twitter and read comments on threads and things of that nature, a lot of fans are like, hey, you had a chance and you didn't do it. You blew it on defense. You gave up a touchdown. So I'm with that. Let's keep the rules the way they are. There's no need to try and make this into some, into one of those 9 overtime college football games, because that's a travesty.
Why was the Buccaneer offense not able to get going until really late in that game?
I posted, I was working a live blog for The Athletic, and I posted on there that I thought the reason that the Bucs were able to get back into it is the Rams had a lack of killer instinct. That game was more than give credit to the Bucs for doing what they did. The Rams, hey, they made mistakes. They took their foot off the gas. You could see Jalen Ramsey on that touchdown pass to Evans. Evans gets behind him, and they catch it at like the 6 or 7 yard line is when he catches it. And if Ramsey just runs and swipes at his feet, might bring him down to the 3 yard line. Yeah, it's a big play, but it's not a touchdown. Ramsey just slowed up. And it was many times in that game where Jalen Ramsey looked like he was just only half interested in playing that game. There's a reason the 49ers, in fact, Marty Schottenheimer used to say this about the Raiders. He said, if you get them to play 4 quarters, you'll beat them because they'll quit. And that was when the Raiders were in L.A. I think they thought they were Hollywood and it got to their head. Same thing with the Rams. If you make the Rams play 4 quarters, they're not going to play a full 4 quarters. And that's why the 49ers have dominated them of late, because the 49ers are just going to keep playing that power football and punching in the mouth. And I think when the Rams started to let up, you can't do that against the Tom Brady team, because this is what happens.
Yeah, and I look at, they had a lot of injuries. The game's close, but it's only close because the Rams, as you said, didn't have the killer instinct. If the Bucs are at full strength, do they win that game?
Yeah, I think they do. I think that if they would have been at full strength, and they've got Worse and they've got Jensen at full strength, so they get an offensive line. Because look what they did to come out at the start of the game. They started to run power football early on, and then the score got out of hand and they couldn't do that. I think that's what they wanted to do, is say, we're gonna punch you guys in the mouth. We think you're Hollywood. And I think if they would have had Jones, and I think if they would have had just a full strength backfield, a full strength offensive line, they would have gone to a more power rush heavy approach. And I think it would have changed the way the Rams defense held up, and it would have given the Bucs some earlier points. And I think that would have made a huge difference for them. So yeah, the Bucs being as banged up as they were was a key to that contest.
Casey Joyner, you go to obviously the game. Now, let me ask you real quick on that. In your opinion, is Brady back?
No, but you're hearing all these things about that. It might be because the Bucs, he wants to play for a team that can win a Super Bowl right now, and he's going to have to be convinced that the Bucs can handle their offseason issues. And there's all this talk now about turmoil in the locker room and such. If he thinks the situation is perfect to make another Super Bowl, he's like, hey, why am I coming back? And there's even speculation that he might go to another team. Imagine him going to, say, I don't know, the 49ers. A great place for him in his career.
Now that's a twist. Let's go to the 49ers. What were they able to do that caused Aaron Rodgers to come up short again at home in the playoffs?
They were able to say, and this is D'Amico Ryan's deserves. He's getting head coaching consideration because of how well that defense played. What he did was, because the Packers have been okay, and they've been this way for a while. We power run the ball, we throw to Devontae Adams, and then we try and hit a big play to somebody other than Adams. Well, I think they had like 8 yards receiving by any of the other receivers not named Adams. He took them out of the game. He limited what Adams did. He still got some catches, but it wasn't any big plays. He said, fine, you can have Adams. We'll give you certain things there. We're going to rotate and make sure we take other things away, and we'll make sure that Adams only does certain things. And when the Packers lost A.J. Dillon, they'd had that two-headed backfield the whole game, or the whole season, and for most of the season. And now they didn't have that. So now you've got one back in the backfield. Taylor's not anywhere near as good. So I think when you add those elements together, it just limited that offense. I think it wasn't just a matter of shutting down Brady or Rodgers. I think it was a matter of shutting down the rest of their offense and making them very one-dimensional.
So Rodgers, 20 of 29, no big plays. Is this a Rodgers problem or is this a Green Bay problem?
It's a Green Bay problem because you're too Devontae Adams centric. You have to have something else. Allen Lazard had caught a touchdown pass. I believe it's in 4 of the past 6 games. It might have been 4 of the past 5, but he had been catching touchdown passes on a consistent basis, and they took him out of the contest. Said, you're not going to get that big play to one of your alternate receivers. You're getting nothing from those guys. We've got the players to do it. We got the scheme to do it, and we're just going to give Adams certain things. We're going to give you certain things with Adams and say he can do this, and you can limit him.
Right.
And that's the thing. If your offense, if you just have that, if you have that one player and you're so one player centric, if you can do something to slow that player down, it can cripple their offense. So I think it's a matter of the Packers. And mind you, I think it's an Aaron Rodgers issue too, because if you as a quarterback only concentrate basically on one receiver and you don't use the other guys, I think it makes your offense, it makes that kind of a problem going to be a possibility when you get to the playoffs.
So Aaron Rodgers, is he back in Green Bay?
If I had to guess, I would say no, just because I think that I just think he might have lost some of his appetite for it. But having said that, I mean, he's you don't know what Aaron Rodgers wants, but will he go to a Pittsburgh? Will he go to another team? He's going to find a team that would want a 1 or 2 year quarterback. I mean, Pittsburgh could be that team. And it's possible you could find a fit there. Maybe a couple of teams could potentially be a fit. But Rodgers only goes somewhere where he can be Aaron Rodgers. And if that team doesn't really give him a wide latitude like he has in Green Bay, I didn't think he'd do it. So I would bet he doesn't come back, but get 50-50.
All right, let's go to Cincinnati and Tennessee. Why was Derrick Henry not a factor?
I think he's rusty. I think he was very rusty. I think Reeder was they lost Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi is their under tackle. He's their disruptor on that defense, and he got 7 sacks. He was third in the team in pressures. And Ogunjobi and was a good run stuffer too. But the thing is, if you've got the nose, you can do things. Usually in a defense, you're going to say, okay, we've got a nose tackle and we've got an under tackle if you're going to play 4-man front. And the under tackle is going to be the disruptor. But you can also just say that's going to be your strong side. And a lot of times they're going to try your weak side. And you just can't do that if you've got Reeder there dominating like he did. But I also thought that the Titans made a mistake by leaning on Henry too much. There was one play where he had a bounce to the outside. Prime Derrick Henry, when he's at full strength, would have busted that play for 20 or 30 yards. He got tackled by one Cincinnati defender. I just think he wasn't where he was, and they gave him 20 carries. Foreman playing as well as he did, why not platoon it and split it? So
Foreman had the biggest play of the day for them.
Yes. And I thought they had 20 carries for Henry and 6 for Foreman. I think it should have been 13-13. Henry could have still done some things for you, but look at some of those plays where they got stuffed on like the 4th down play. He didn't have that kind of a burst, and they got right into the backfield and things, but he did not have the kind of burst that he normally has. I think he was expecting too much of him to say, "Hey, you're going to be King Henry." Look, the guy has plates in his foot. No, you need to realize that he's got some limitations. Yeah. And they didn't want to.
He had 5 screws and a plate in his foot and a plate in his shoe that they said. So he was really playing less than, I was surprised to hear that he was playing with that much equipment to get him on the field. That being said, it's amazing that he was out there at 20 carries for over 60 yards. You flip it over to the Bengals. Burrow's obviously tremendous. Their line's horrendous. But why were they able to overcome the fact that they couldn't protect him?
Well, partly because, again, the Titans' offense, 3 mistakes from Ryan Tannehill. If Ryan Tannehill plays even at a reasonable, that's only, was it the 4th game that he had 3 games with 2 or more interceptions in the year, and I don't think he had 3 interceptions in any game. So it's only the 4 times happened all year where he's had that many interceptions. They've been able to keep away from having to lean too much on Tannehill. But I think the Titans thought, and this helped the Bengals offense only had to make so many big plays. I think the Titans thought, we've got our offensive line back, we've got Henry back, hey, we've got Jones, we've got Brown. Okay, we're back to full strength. And you could see that they were not that way. They haven't practiced together a lot. They weren't in sync at all. And they were trying to do things they shouldn't do. So they gave them the 3 interceptions. So when you give 3 interceptions, that's going to nullify 9 sacks. That's what caused it, is Tannehill making those big mistakes and allowing Burrow to have enough chances to be able to put Shooter McPherson in a line to kick a field goal to win.
All right. So the question I have moving forward is to kind of, you had 8 teams, 2 of which, Bills, Chiefs, the quarterback really drove those teams to victory.
Yep.
In the other games, not as much the case. Now, Stafford's interesting. He had a monster game. So I guess you could kind of throw that in the mix, but I don't know. I don't know what you feel about the whole, how big of an impact Stafford had on that. Burrow, they won, and they had the best quarterback in that game, but, not like some offensive shootout. Garoppolo, obviously you're not taking over Rodgers, and I think San Francisco's got a whole nother situation coming if they make the Super Bowl again. So the quarterback weekend, how are the other teams watching this? What's their take on it?
Go back to the Eli Manning Super Bowl 42, the second of his Super Bowl wins, or the first of his Super Bowl wins. You go back there from 42 to 55, you've got 14 Super Bowls. Go look at the quarterbacks who've won. You've got Eli winning 1, you got Flacco winning 1, you've got a very limited Peyton Manning at the end of his career when he wasn't the same quarterback. You've got him winning 1. Garoppolo nearly wins 1. Nick Foles wins 1. I mean, you just look at these two, look at them going, okay, there are some great quarterbacks who win here, but it's about a third of the time. Well, it wouldn't have been too much if the 49ers would have held on for that victory a couple years ago. You'd have 6 of the last 14 Super Bowl winners would be quarterbacks who either, I mean, again, Peyton Manning was still mentally Peyton Manning, but physically he wasn't anywhere near what he was, who were not elite quarterbacks, not top 5, not top 8 quarterbacks probably in the league. So you'd have 6 out of 14. You either have an elite quarterback and you can get there, or you can build a team around power running, power defense, and you can build around that kind of an element. There's 2 ways to go about it. And mind you, hey, it's great to have a Patrick Mahomes and look and say that's the way you want to go, or get a Joe Burrow. But if you're a team and you don't have that as your option, okay, you need to go the other direction, because that can still give you a championship if you do it right.
Yeah, I know that's that was the take from all the Eagles fans is, we need Allen Mahomes. You got to get rid of this Hurts. He's not good enough. I said, yeah, if you can get them. The problem is they don't really exist.
Yeah. What did Parcells say one time? Bill Parcells said, somebody was talking about his quarterback play. He's like, it's not like you can just call 1-900 quarterback and get a quarterback. I mean,
Yeah, I said, look, I'm game. If you want to tell me I got Josh Allen next year, that's great. How am I getting this guy? I liken it to, Casey, in the NBA, where you get LeBron James as the number 1 overall pick. You're not getting a player of that caliber for another 10, 15 years. Yeah. So when you get Patrick Mahomes, it's not like there's another Patrick Mahomes level quarterback coming out. Like, he's not coming around for another, 5, 6 drafts. No. It's probably more frequent than it is in the NBA, but pretty rare to get a guy like Josh Allen was the 3rd quarterback taken in that class. The other 4 bombed.
Yeah, and mind you, you don't know if you're going to get them, because look at many quarterbacks. I mean, Brady, obviously, with the 6th round pick and all, and Josh Allen taken later. And you can look at some of these guys, and even Patrick Mahomes, number 10 pick in the draft. I mean, there were 9 players taken in front of Patrick Mahomes, so you never know exactly what you're going to get, which is why teams will say you should always be drafting a quarterback, because you never know when you're going to find that guy. But it's a hard thing to do, but it's one of those things where you either develop that kind of quarterback, and a lot of times I will say luck at it, but really you do, or you go the other route. And mind you, hey, look, if you got a great quarterback too, you can power run the ball. The Chiefs did it a couple years ago. When Rodgers won his Super Bowl, the Packers have been that way. I mean, you can go the other route too. You build around power first, and then you hope you get your great quarterback.
All right, one thought every game, championship weekend. We'll do it on Friday, as we'll take a look at the 2 championship games, which you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. I was looking forward to a possible Bengals-Bills. I would have felt like Jim Kelly against Boomer Esiason with the winner facing Joe Montana, right?
Yeah. would have been nice, and it would have been. Yeah, but it's funny thing is it's still a very interesting four teams that there's still great storylines for all of them. Even though you think, okay, well, you lost Brady, you lost Rodgers, you don't have Josh Allen. I mean, some of the really great, and you still look at these teams and go, these are still four very interesting teams. And I keep looking at it going, I don't look at any of these teams and go, none of them could win. Like, would it be a shock if the Niners won? No, the way they play and the kind of team that they have wouldn't be a shock if they won the thing. Maybe the Bengals would be a shock. But having said that, if Burrow plays, I mean, he beat Kansas City just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Could he get them to Super Bowl? Sure. And if he did, who knows? So I think that these are four teams that are very close talent-wise, and I think it makes for very interesting next week.
All right, Casey Joyner's back on Friday. One thought every game, NFC, AFC championship round. Casey, we'll talk to you then.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, that's Casey Joyner from The Athletic.